Welcome to the Humanities Team podcast with me, Steve Farrell. Humanities Team is an international spiritual movement whose purpose is to communicate and demonstrate the timeless truth that we are all one, with the divine and all life, caring for each other and the world we share, so that people's actions reflect this profound understanding within our generation. We believe that living this truth is essential to resolving the most chronic and acute world challenges and vital to creating a flourishing world of peace, harmony, and happiness. We offer transformative education programs in personal and spiritual development, and we host an annual event called Global Oneness Day. Similar to Earth Day, which galvanized the global environmental movement, Global Oneness Day has become a catalyst for spiritual activism and an integral part of the present-day global oneness movement, which represents a profound new paradigm in human culture. Humanities Team is the only global nonprofit organization working in transformational education. Since we are a nonprofit, there is no focus on growing profits or satisfying shareholders, and 100% of all revenue goes toward our work supporting conscious evolution, planetary awakening, and flourishing at every level of life. If you'd like to learn more about us or want to support our mission directly through donation or volunteering some of your time, please visit us online at humanitiesteam.org. And lastly, if you enjoyed this podcast, we'd be grateful if you'd leave us a review.
This is a Oneness and 12 Spheres of Life call. We're doing these calls monthly. These calls are a collaboration between the co-hosts, Barbara Fields with the Association for Global New Thought, Barbara Marx Hubbard with the Foundation for Conscious Evolution, and Anna-Mari Pieterse and myself with Humanities Team. And as we've been sharing, these calls are a true partnership in oneness. We have over 2,200 people registered for this call. We've got a great listening audience today. All of us are involved with Global Oneness Day 2014, which is on October 24th. This year, that's a Friday. So we invite you to ink that on your calendar now. As you know, Global Oneness Day is an Earth Day for an awakened humanity. Today, or this month, the month of June, our focus is governance. And we have a special guest that we're really excited about, Marianne Williamson. We want to congratulate her on the congressional race that she just ran, where she went from the back of the pack to the number 4 position. And Marianne, I'm not sure if she's on the call or whether she's coming to the call, but I just want to say that you empowered all of us to really go for it. I think you sent a clear message, pursue your dream. And so certainly from all of us in Humanities Team, and I think all of us as hosts, thank you, and we love you and appreciate you. This call is interactive with all of you, the listeners, so we want to invite you to put your name, your city, and country in the question window on Instant Teleseminar. And also any comments or questions that you have as we get going, and we'll bring as many of those as we can to Marianne before the hour is over. And Barbara Fields, over to you. Barbara Fields, are you with us? She was checking.
You know what are we on the air now?
We are. And this is Barbara Marx Hubbard.
Yeah. Okay.
Barbara, why don't we go ahead and just go right into the self-introductions. I think Barbara Fields was actually, they're next-door neighbors, by the way. Isn't that neat? Barbara,
I'm here. I'm back. I'm sorry.
Live next door. Okay, and here's Barbara Fields. We're just doing quick introductions, and Barbara Fields, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for being here again. We were just discussing this morning how we wish that instead of being virtual neighbors, that we could see you all in real time and space and have more personal contact. But we do appreciate the tools of technology bringing us together, and we appreciate that all of you are here today. AG&T, just a quick check-in, is real busy right now. I think most of you know that our big project this year is the Awakened World International Film Festival and Retreat here in Santa Barbara at the end of October. And that's a way for our community to come together in high consciousness and looking at new models and new forms of media and entertainment. So thanks for being here, and we're really looking forward to being with Marianne. what a pioneer she is for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and with that, we're going to go into self-introductions. These are just brief introductions by the four of us co-hosts, and Anna-Mari Pieterse begins, please.
Okay, wonderful. So good day from me as well, everyone. I'm so delighted, as always, to participate in this call today, exploring how oneness is at play in the sphere of governance and leadership. I'm always happy to be in communion with my colleagues, and today I'm especially excited to meet and to share time and space with our special guest, Marianne Williamson, that I've come to know over the years, only in virtual space, and today I will be able to speak with her on the phone. That's so wonderful. I have been involved with Humanities Team since 2005 as the country coordinator for South Africa, and have been serving on a worldwide level in different ways. I am currently blessed to co-lead the Humanities Team Oneness in 12 Spheres of Life initiative, together with our worldwide coordinating director for Humanities Team and the host of this series, Steve Farrell. I'm looking forward to the discussion on the topic of governance that is close to my heart, and I would like to wish everyone a warm welcome. Thank you.
And this is Barbara Marx Hubbard, and I am here right next to Barbara Fields. I am an evolutionary educator, visionary. I've had some experience with politics when I ran for vice president in 1984, proposing a peace room as sophisticated as a war room in the office of the vice presidency. So I'm particularly interested in being with Marianne today. And I have been working myself in how to develop social synergy, social cooperation at the political level, as well as at the larger evolutionary visionary level, as to where is humanity going in the midst of this crisis, and what could be our future as a co-creative evolutionary species. I think we're right at the threshold of becoming a new humanity. Thank you. So I turn this over to you, Steve.
Okay, and Barbara Fields, if you wanted to say another word or two before we launch in.
I think I've already checked in. I would throw in that the Association for Global New Thought just finished its 17th annual Gandhi King Season for Nonviolence. So we're very proud that this is a project that has such longevity and continues to grow every year, which of course wouldn't be possible if not for the people that are actually on this call, and many like you, because it's really this omni-local model where everyone becomes a leader and takes responsibility in their own community that the model is really shifting. So once again, I think I'll just wind up saying my hats off to all the people out there who are helping build this new vision.
Okay, Marianne Williamson is going to be joining us here momentarily. I had a chance to introduce myself earlier. I'm Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Coordinating Director for Humanities Team, and thanks again for being with us, making this call a priority. We've got this great listening audience, over 2,200 who are registered here in this country, but really all over the world. There's so much polarity in government. I've read that there's no country that we can point to that has a model for governance where we can really say that it's healthy, it's functional, and it's designed for the demands of the future. And that's why, isn't it true, Barbara?
That's really saying something, isn't it? No country has a government that
so
that shows you the need.
Is happening. This birth is necessary. And that's why this call is so important. I mean, truly, there's not a government. Here we are on planet Earth with all of these, over 196 countries represented at the United Nations, and there's not a single country right now where we can point to their model of governance and say that it's working. So clearly there's an opportunity here. There's an invitation. And in oneness, where we see the divine in all of life, perhaps we can find that model. I think all of us on this call believe that we can. Marianne Williamson and the co-hosts of this panel, or all of us, are going to share, and I'm quite sure there's going to be a lot of food for thought here. So it's going to be a fabulous hour. Let me go through the agenda real quick, and then we'll just launch right in. Barbara Marx Hubbard is going to go next. She's going to introduce and do the evocation for the Wheel of Co-Creation, This is the basis for what we are calling here on these calls oneness in the 12 spheres of life. Then Anna-Mari Pieterse is going to overview the sphere that we're focusing on this month, which is governance. Barbara Marx Hubbard is then going to introduce and bring questions to our special guest, Marianne Williamson. And then Barbara Fields is going to lead an interactive panel discussion. I'll then bring in comments and questions from you, the listeners, and then we'll close with the program in July, which is exciting, and tell you a little bit about that. So as we get started, go ahead, again, if you're on Instant Teleseminar, put your name, city, country, and any comments or questions that you have in the Instant Teleseminar window. Many of you have already begun. Thank you, and we'll be getting to your names here shortly. And Barbara Marx Hubbard, over to you.
Thank you. I'm evoking the wheel of co-creation and oneness. I'd like to make 2 or 3 main points that in species evolution, the key to species that prevail and survive is their mode of self-governance. The better the mode of self-governance, the better that species can evolve. And I think we have lost the capacity for self-governance within our government because the structure is top-down model that actually does not self-govern well anymore. Liberal democracy was a great advantage when it came in, but it is no longer working because what we need is coordination, synergy, and cooperation, which liberal democracy really is not designed to create. And the countries like in the Arab Spring that try to do it have an even worse breakdown than the rest of us. So I am proposing that the wheel of co-creation, 12 spheres of life, is actually a model of self-governance. It's a model of social cooperation and whole system making because it connects every sector of the wheel as an organ in the social body, such as health, education, like governance is actually an organic function in the body that Marianne will be speaking of. And when these are seen as part of one whole system shift, and everybody in who's working for their own unique purpose being part of the whole, learning how to seek common goals and match needs with resources, I believe that we're going to see the next level of self-governance. That's what we're working for. And I'm very proud to say that there are 2 major wheels of co-creation that are now launched, one in the country of Monterey, where they're going to have 12 universities reporting on each sector of the wheel with business people and social activists to be presented on Global Oneness Day, October 24th. And then there's going to be another wheel being established in Cairo, Egypt, with the sponsorship of Masterpiece and organic farming. So it actually, I want everyone to know that this wheel where we're identifying key individuals for every sector can also be modeled on the local level. And I think it builds on what Barbara Fields has done with the Season for Nonviolence for 17 years, would be an addition of how the people who are working at the local level can join together as a whole system. And since our theme is oneness, global oneness and global wholeness, I think that we are truly pioneering in the next stage of self-governance here. So I'm very excited about this and turn this over to you, Anne-Marie.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Barbara. So yes, of course, we are looking at the sphere that deals with the administration of authority and leadership of a community. We are witnessing a fast-changing world. As such, in 2007, in his book Blessed Unrest, world-renowned environmentalist, journalist, and author Paul Hawken remarked that a global democracy movement was about to pop, with over 1 million or maybe 2 million organizations working toward ecological sustainability and social justice. After spending years researching this phenomenon, Paul created with his colleagues a global database of these organizations and came to the conclusion that what we were witnessing was the largest social movement in all of history, with no one knowing its scope and how it functions. He observed that the movement could not be divided because it is atomized, made up of small pieces that are loosely joined and that forms, gathers, and dissipates quickly, capable of bringing down governments, company, and leaders through witnessing, informing, and massing. The movement that we were witnessing, he said, or according to them, had three basic roots: the environmental, social justice movements, and indigenous cultures, all of which are intertwining and arising spontaneously from different economic sectors, cultures, regions, and cohorts, spreading worldwide without exception. The promise of the largest unnamed coming together of citizens in history is to offer solutions to what appear to be our insoluble dilemmas. Without one person specifically being in charge and without orthodoxy, rather than being burdened with the syndrome of trying to save the world, this global, classless, diverse, unquenchable, and tireless movement tries to remake the world rather through self-managed teams that are keen to collaborate and to reach consensus, keen to invite people's perceptions, feelings, and intuition through dialogue in order to achieve goals that serve the greater good. Instead of applying the current political opposing left versus right view approaches, Oneness offers a third way, a political system that transcends both sides of the partisan divide, and that includes the revelations and the very best of both, without limiting oneself to the tyranny of either, and without resorting to the uninhibited compromise of mere centrism. Now, new leadership integrates spirit as a living force in the world. Principled political candidates are willing to lose, and presidents win elections by promising to create the best opportunity for the electorate to expand their awareness, to see the depths of their possibilities, and to reach for new levels of experience. This sphere comes to life through the development of our inequalities and recognition that the world does not have to be the way it is, that individual people can change it, using the power of spiritual citizenship. We are government through our own self-governance. We recognize that as human beings, we need each other to survive on this planet, that we are all in this together, and that community flourishes as we learn about each other and revel in the wonder and beauty of our diversities. We play a conscious part in helping to bring about a culture in which we, the peoples of the world, can address our common global concerns in transforming ways and live together in peace with one another. Oneness governance reflects unity consciousness. Thank you, and over to you.
And Marianne is with us, so Barbara, I think, is introducing her now.
Hello, Marianne.
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, Marianne. We are so happy to have you with us and to embrace you and welcome you as one of our truly beloved leaders. And just in my introduction of Marianne, I'd like to say I've known Marianne for many, many years, and she embodies what we would like to see in our government. She has been a tremendous student of the Course in Miracles, bringing forward love as the key to the transformation. She's founded many important peace organizations. She is a major speaker around the world, a vibrant speaker. She has run a church. She has done just about everything. What did you say?
I've done a few things.
She's done a few things, and she's still really a spring chicken. So, Marianne, I really welcome you, Marianne, and we're so privileged to have you right now in this political scene. First of all, for you to tell us something about your campaign and what it was like and how you feel the dynamics of a person like you running is. And secondly, I'd like to get a little bit of what you think happened to Eric Cantor and the breakup of even the Republican Party. But first of all, what was your experience in running for Congress? What did you learn that you think is important that we all need to know? And what was in your heart?
Well, I think it's particularly interesting to have this opportunity, and thank you, Barbara. And I want to thank you personally, Barbara, for the way you supported my candidacy and made a video and all kinds of things. So I want to thank you personally and anyone connected to this call. I know Humanities Team emerges from the work of Neil Donald Walsh, who was profoundly supportive, as were others. So, I just came off a campaign, a very serious 7-month campaign for the U.S. House of Representatives here in California, District 33. I did not make it into the top 2 in a primary election where I won the districts, I won the precincts where people read my kinds of books and our kinds of books. You know, I won Malibu, Topanga, Venice, and so forth. I was not able to penetrate into at all into the South Bay of this district, which is which the 2 top candidates, they come from there, they live there, and so forth. Now, what I learned is a lot of things. I've never had such a learning experience. But in terms of what you were, is it Anna-Mari who was speaking before? Yes. And Anna-Mari, was that from Paul Hawkins' speech that time about blessed unrest that you were talking?
Yes, it was.
I was speaking about
right.
Paul Hawkins.
Okay, so what I learned, and nothing but running would have taught me, we all heard Paul's talk, and we were all profoundly moved by it, and it has animated our community. But there's something that I know now is missing that I didn't know before. It all sounds really beautiful. It all sounds really great. But a lot of the people being described in that gorgeous language are not registered to vote. And that's your answer, Barbara, for why Virginia happened and mine didn't. Because when it comes to the far right, those people are they have what de Tocqueville called the habits of democracy. 2 things. First of all, the far right does not have a codependent relationship with a particular political party. Progressives on the left have this codependent relationship with the Democratic Party. The people on the right don't have. It's actually healthier in its own way. It is healthy, actually, in not only in terms of personal maturity, I have to say in terms of personal maturity, but certainly in terms of political and social maturity. Those people don't care that Eric Cantor was this highly placed Republican person in the House. They didn't care. And you know what? They were right not to care. And it's very democratic what they did. And we might disagree very much with some of the things they say, and I certainly do with the Tea Party. On the other hand, they're standing up more than we are against the Patriot Act. I mean, you know, what happened the other day was democracy. We ought to try it. On the other hand, when it comes to our perspective and the things that Anna-Mari was reading about our crowd, it's certainly true. It is certainly profound. But the piece that I now know is missing is that it does not automatically translate into a shift in governance unless people vote. It does not automatically translate into a shift in governance unless people take the political sphere to be as meaningful as it is. And a lot of the people described in Paul's declaration there are not totally convinced that electoral politics is worthy of their work. You know, they talk all this time about, you know, well, they see both sides. Well, great. I ran as an independent. Still, it's much more down to earth like that. If you're actually not registered and you're actually not calling your friends to make sure they vote that day. So that's the next piece as I see it, Barbara, and I don't just see it. I just experienced it. If you know, a lot of people in our world have either not been just in the habit. You know, a lot of people, that's a whole part of the spiritual conversation that I've dealt with for years, is a lot of people from the transformational community who feel like, you know, I'm too spiritual to be involved in politics. It's toxic and I'm into being spiritual. Well, I certainly feel that the conversation I've been in for years that, you know, you can't be selectively conscious, you can't be selectively awake. We have to include electoral politics and any serious formulation for global transformation. I think that has that meme is out there now. But what I would say about this community is it's more it really catching up with a muscle and developing a muscle that is underdeveloped in our community, and a lot of the groups that Anna-Mari mentioned, very underdeveloped musculature, either from not having ever been used in the cases of some of the people described there, or in the cases of not having been used enough. And you know, Barbara, people don't even remember what they learned in civics today. A lot of these young people didn't even learn civics. It's scary bad. So in my case, what happened with Eric Cantor, those people know what a congressional primary is. You better believe it. They know what a congressional primary is, and they know to register, and they know to get people to the polls. And if for us to make it any less grounded in dirt under our fingernails, I think does not serve us. So I'm real excited to be up close and personal. I agree we have everything we need now, but now we need to not be too precious for the purposes of actual political mobilization.
I think that's very clear, and I think even I've been guilty of this myself, where you have the feeling that whoever wins, whether it be the presidency or a member of Congress, they're in such a combative situation of one part against the other that they're not going to be able to be effective. So that so many people I know who are of the Paul Hawkins type feel that by organizing ourselves in a way and using internet and becoming the change, that we have more effect than we get into government. And I was wondering, Marianne, if you had made it, what kind of effect you would have had on Congress. Either they would have been so amazed at you and you would have had a chance to influence them, or that would you have been caught in that divisive system?
Well, first of all, I think that we have an illusion about what goes on there. There are very wonderful people in Congress. There are people, I assure you, who have read your books, Barbara. But it's a matter of math. We don't have proportional representation in the United States. We don't have a parliamentary system. And that's not going to change in our time, in our lifetime. Mm-hmm. So what that means is that winner takes all. So you can have people in Washington, and I believe that there are people in Washington who are of the kind of consciousness that we represent, are much cooler than we seem to think, but they're in the minority. And one of the reasons why Alan Grayson endorsed me, one of the reasons why Keith Ellison endorsed me, these are two sitting Democratic congressmen. Alan Grayson, probably the most famous progressive congressman. Keith Ellison, co-chairman of the Progressive Caucus. The reason they did endorse me was because they felt that the fact that I am a professional popularizer, I articulate these things, is what is needed now more than just another legislative technician. So I wouldn't have been so different than a lot of people who are actually there. What I would have had, though, is a fierce willingness to say what I really think, because I'm not part of that scene.
Yeah.
Also, someone, and I'm not going to, pardon?
I said you have a voice. You have
a
powerful voice.
Yeah. And to me, these things matter most. Someone who is, and I'm certainly not going to name any names, but someone who our community knows as being in there, as someone who is someone who reads our books, would not endorse my candidacy because of that game and having to play it. So, as I see Washington, it's people, many of whom are just, like us and working. I mean, if we can talk all we want about global unity, but people who are actually voting or sponsoring a bill like the Department of Peace Building, they're actually working on global unity just as effectively as we are. People who are actually voting to take something, to do something about child poverty or mass incarceration, to me, they are workers in the field of cultivating global unity, no more and no less than we are. And I think that for us to fail to to support them in the nitty-gritty of politics, not just with flowery talk, but with the nitty and gritty of politics, we are ourselves withholding a contribution that I think our community should be the first to be making and not the last.
I totally agree, and you know who really does carry this out is the evolving nuns, the sister community. They are in politics, they're carrying this message, and they are very savvy with this. Marianne, you said that you thought politics should be the most heartfelt, not the least heartfelt thing we do. Can you share more on that thought about how we might bring that heartfeltness in along with the nitty-gritty voting?
Well, this is such a big deal, and so thank you for giving me this opportunity. You know, Barbara, Gandhi said that politics should be sacred. And, of course, he didn't mean religious. Of course, he didn't mean, doctrine or anything like that. He meant that it should emerge from the deepest conversation, the most authentic place within ourselves. And that is really compelling to me, as I know it would be to you. And what I experienced on this campaign, and this is why the campaign was so magnificent an experience for me, is because I now feel more than ever that people do yearn for a meaningful relationship to the public sphere. When you and I sit down, and our whole community is about cultivating authenticity and compassion and open-heartedness. And we know how life changes when you live in open-heartedness and compassion and authenticity. And we also know our community, because we have been the field of this. We know that when you live in authenticity, open-heartedness, and compassion and forgiveness and so forth, not only does it affect your life, not only does it affect your health, but it also affects your relationships with other people. Now, what Martin Luther King said about Gandhi is that he took that ethic of love and he lifted it beyond mere personal interaction and said that same force, what you and I would see as authenticity and love and compassion and forgiveness, he said that same force can heal political and social relationships as well. And so I saw it, Barbara. I saw it on the campaign trail. And it was so inspiring to me. I will never forget it. And I feel so blessed and so changed by it. I sat in rooms where people, 10 people, 50 people, 75 people, who did not know each other, didn't know who was a Republican, didn't know who was a Democrat, were in that field. And we talked about things that are thought of as quote-unquote political issues. But political is just a category. These are life issues. If you're the starving child, is child poverty a political issue? If you are the person unjustly incarcerated, is it just a political issue? No, it's a human issue. So when I say it should be heartfelt, I think it's time, even on this phone call, you look at something like, once again, going back to what Anna-Mari said, going back to all the things that you've written, all the things that Neil has written, what I felt with this campaign, and I now feel even more than ever, we've got to take it out of the monastery. We can't just talk about this among ourselves. We've got to actually run candidates who actually stand for bills and for issues that reflect the attitude of global oneness, that reflect peace building, that reflect the forgiveness among nations. And then, as I said before, it's the yin and the yang. We've got the yin. We need the yang now. We've got to also, it don't mean nothing at the polls if those lovely people aren't registered to vote. So,
well, what we really need is a mass movement of candidates.
Well, I agree with you, and thank you for saying that. And I remember when there was an opening not too long ago up north, and I was at that time planning in my mind my candidacy down here, but I don't think I'd announced it yet. And I called someone in our community. I said, "Hey guys, so many of us live up there. Isn't there anybody who would run?" And you're saying that now. I don't know if I'm ever going to run again, but I have learned so much, Barbara. And I have so much about that I just couldn't have known before about what to do right and what to do wrong. And I'll tell you something else, Barbara. Everything I did wrong was because I didn't approach something the way we on this call know to do it. I would allow a consultant to convince me rather than what I had heard in meditation that morning to convince me.
Yeah,
it's not quite that black and white, but you know what I'm saying. So I'm so with you, and if anybody, I'm with you all the way, and that's what my sister giant, I've done 2 of them, conferences have done. I'm totally in agreement with you. That is the next step. We need to run candidacies.
Yes, I have one last question here. Do you think it can make much of a difference as to who is president when it feels like the opposition inhibits them to such a degree? Like, they say, if Obama wins, it will make such a difference. I don't think most of us feel that will make a huge difference, let's say, if Hillary becomes president or whoever does, because of the structure they're in. Is that accurate or not?
I think that it is incumbent upon our community to exercise more intellectual and political perspicacity and not less. I heard the president yesterday on television talking about guns. I was very moved by his statements, and it was kind of the Obama that I think we all were hoping for in 2008. I was very moved by that. But in general, with much of what the president has done, I would go back to what I talked about earlier on this call about this codependent relationship that we have with politicians sometimes. There are things that if George Bush had done them, we would have screamed bloody murder. But when Barack Obama did them, we've moved into this knee-jerk, oh, poor baby. They would not let him, even in cases where there is no evidence that he tried. So I think we need to have a much more sophisticated eye. There are places where absolutely the system stops you, and I think what our contribution should be is that you lay down the gauntlet anyway. And so there are places where it is true the president has been stymied. There is no doubt about that. But there are other places where he didn't even put up a fight, so I don't go into the automatic, oh, poor baby, the system wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
Let's be very real about the money. For instance, on health care, the Democratic Party, unfortunately, is as beholden as is the Republican Party to the huge amount of corporate money that feeds those coffers in order for those people to get elected. And that's why I believe and stood in my campaign for the idea that getting the money out of politics is the great moral challenge of our generation. Martin Luther King, Barbara, said that we need externalized changes in our circumstances as well as internal changes in our souls. And he said that the desegregation of the American South was the externalized political goal of the civil rights movement, but the ultimate goal was the establishment of the beloved community. I think in our generation, our group, we have the beloved community part, but the equivalent in our time of what was for Dr. King, the establishment of the beloved community, for us must be getting the money out of politics, preferably through a constitutional amendment.
Thank you, Marianne. I just admire you and support you, and we're thrilled to have you. And I'm turning this over now to Barbara Fields to moderate a panel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Hi, Marianne. That was
Hi, Barbara.
Money in politics. Funny that we should get to that at the end, right?
Yeah.
That seems to be the crux of the matter. Okay, well, I'd like to include both Steve and Anna-Mari and Barbara and Marianne in just interactive discussion, and maybe I'll pipe in if I think I have something to say. But just to put up a question that might make us all go ballistic or else we might resonate with, what about the people who, including me at times, like Buckminster Fuller's phrase that you can't change the existing system by going up against it, but more or less by using your time, energy, and resources to create a new system? Is that somewhat part and parcel with what Marianne's been trying to do, but also within the system itself creating a new system? So I want to put that out there for a little bit of discussion. Anyone?
Yeah, I would like to come in here. That's a fabulous question, Barbara. We had here in South Africa recently, we had a new chap also coming into the political field, and he started a party called the Ubuntu Party. And he also, he had a short stint of campaigning and all of that. But the one thing that I wondered, as he was doing this is, wouldn't it be better if, the kind of world that he's calling for, if he found a way to make that kind of a community that he wants us all to create and to be part of, if he found a way to make that happen, because this is also something that Neil Donald Walsh is create it and the people will come. I really believe that because I've seen it, in myself, with myself, when I go out there trying to make a difference. The most difficult thing and the most disheartening thing is to oppose the system and to fight the system. It just breaks the spirit so much, and I think we get less done than if we maybe took more effort in trying to go and build that we want to see. Over.
And I'll come in, Barbara. This is Steve. I agree with that Buckminster Fuller statement. Don't try and go against. I think what we're doing with these calls, these Oneness and 12 Spheres of Life calls, where Marianne is on in this case, making a very compelling statement about what government can be and how we need more organization, more voice, more discipline, all of these kinds of things. This is what we're doing with these calls. This is what we're doing with Global Oneness Day. It's what we're doing with the Wheel of Co-Creation. It's what we're doing with the Seasons for Peace and Nonviolence. It's what you all are doing with the books you're writing, is we're bringing together the change agents, the players, the progressive voices that are saying we can and we are creating another way. And that's what's important. I think in the past, where we were all independent operators, our own puzzle pieces floating around, there was little we could do. And the important thing now is that we're a puzzle board where we're connecting all the pieces, connecting our work, connecting our voices. That's how we're going to offer this alternative, this new system that creates the change that we've wanted.
Thank you, Steve, I'd just like to say a word about just exactly that point. What I think is possible, like is happening in Monterey right now, is that they have a very divided system. They have a dangerous city because of the drug problem and the drug lords. And what's happening with building literally a physical design of a wheel is that people who are in government, people who are in the universities, are coming in to state their vision, their needs, and their resources so that everybody starts to get more. And I think that one of the things to be done with the 12 Spheres of Life and Wheels is to invite local elected officials in to meet with the people, not by us just in opposition to or trying to get one thing passed, but to create the dynamics of social synergy, which they then can use when they are in the political realm itself. We found when we did the SynCons, when you invite local elected officials or ambassadors to come in and state their vision, they're very powerful in their vision, but you hardly ever get them to be able to say it because of the structures they're in. So I think we can cooperate by creating our social synergy and inviting our officials in, as well as becoming officials ourselves.
May I speak?
Yeah, Marianne, go ahead.
Yeah.
I really want to hear your answer to this.
Yeah, I really would submit to our community that we need to go up a notch in our sophistication here. There are two levels in which to talk about simply creating a new system. And one is on the level of consciousness, and there is no doubt about it, because until there's a new consciousness, as Gandhi said, the end is inherent in the means. We know that. We know that people have to be coming from a new place before new doing will have any effectiveness in a new way. We know that. My point is, we got that. But just as too much yang without yin is aggressive, too much yin without enough yang is ineffective. So this idea that we're going to avoid the actual political realities and just create a new system is silly. It is absolutely silly. Because, first of all, unless we're out there actually feeding the poor, and I don't think our community has any huge homeless operations that I know about, or hunger projects that I know about, which the Jews and the Catholics and the Protestants, even the Muslims, do have, by the way. So it's not like we're out there doing the alternative work. So when we talk about how we will just create a new way, when it comes to politics, let's be very, very, very clear here, because grown-ups would be. If we think we can just avoid the political system as it exists today, take our consciousness, our love, everything we're about, avoid politics and think it's our job to just create a political system, what will happen, I assure you, is that the last thing that will happen is that it will wither away. Rather, it will become a corporate fascist state. Our ignoring it is not making it wither away. It will turn it into a right-wing corporate fascist state. There is a difference between transcendence and denial. And sometimes the shadow side of our community, it's like we all know not to do this on a personal level, the idea of a spiritual bypass. But even though we got that as part of our conversation, not to do a spiritual bypass when it comes to our personal issues, we need to also not do a spiritual bypass when it comes to political issues. Because otherwise what's happening here is that we think we're like contributing to its withering away, but by ignoring it and not participating in it are actually contributing passively into its takeover by the very forces that represent what we do not wish to see.
That's what Marianne, I had the feeling that would be your answer, and I'm glad you said it, because I happen to agree with that 100%. And I think what we're talking about here is a hybrid of two worldviews having a chance to logistically and dialogically come together. That I think that the people in our movement, for the most part, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, I don't watch the news anymore, I don't read the newspapers anymore, because it affects my consciousness to have a vision of something better. And I have to tell you flat out, I've lost patience with that point of view. And what we're talking about now is I do believe that we need to educate ourselves. We don't want to be informed, but we have to be informed about the issues. And I think that the most productive conversation has now to do not with what's wrong. What was somebody said something about it's not time to rearrange the lounge chairs on the Titanic's deck. It's more time to talk about the solutions for how these two systems do effectively heal the disconnect that they clearly show and come together so that the strong, valid points on both sides are able to merge in some productive way.
But, there's something I'd like to say that I think is really significant. People talk about getting involved politically like it's a disease, like it'll give you the cooties or something. It's the most ridiculous thing. I have to tell you about running for office. It was so fun. It's exciting. We talk about it like, we just have to do it and bring two views together. It's not even that high. It's not that high level, 1,000 feet. It's like getting people registered to vote. It was inspiring to be part of this. To me, it's a lot more inspiring. There's just another conference talking about it. Our conferences talking about it should be that are actually connected to our ability to be effective. So getting involved in a political campaign, people have this idea that it's so toxic. It's so exciting and inspiring. What's toxic is the world that has been manufactured as a consequence of the fact that we have not been involved. And one of the things Barbara talks about that I love that Barbara talks about, Barbara and I share this real excitement about the metaphysics of the founders of this country. We don't need to create a new system. We need to participate in the system. The system is actually pure genius. We just need to participate. We're sitting here putting it down, not even having participated. And that's why there was so much excitement about my campaign and this energy that what do we do now? What's next? Because it was so fun.
I totally get that. Marianne, when I ran for vice president as an idea candidate, which is also a tradition in this country, and actually got into the Democratic National Convention, where I needed to get 200 delegates to have my name placed in nomination. I did, on the one idea I had of a new function in the office of the vice president to map, track, connect, and communicate what's working in the world. But I did it right in the Democratic National Convention, and the Democratic Party was astonished that I got more delegates than people like Jesse Jackson and very famous politicians, because they loved the idea. Now, I didn't run for office in the traditional way, but I do want to speak on behalf of idea candidates as well, who've had a big influence on the system.
Okay, this is Barbara Fields, and we'll move on in a moment to Steve has some comments from the global audience I think he'd like to share. But I do want to say that we have demonstrated to ourselves, to a certain degree, it wasn't perfect, but to a certain degree, during the first election of Obama, that we could come together, we could register to vote, we could get out there in numbers, we could get the youth out there, because we were both following our vision and paying attention to whether or not we were registered to vote and doing the right thing. I believe that since we've demonstrated that to ourselves, if we did that in every election, if in every primary, if we followed the work and the voting record of the people who were representing us, we wouldn't find that it was so daunting a consideration that once we did get somebody that we approved of or hoped for in office, that they could actually continue to do their work in a constructive way. So it's not impossible. These two worldviews can really meet. So can I ask for just a wrap-up comment from any of you for this section, and then, Steve, you can move on to the next piece?
I'd like to say something to that, Barbara. I am very, very grateful for the extraordinary support that I had for my campaign. Barbara Marx Hubbard was absolutely extraordinary, as was Neil Donald Walsh, as were so many of my colleagues. So, and people came forth and funded the campaign in very beautiful ways. Having said so, I am deeply grateful. Having said that, I need to say something to what you just said. In terms of the larger community, we did have a candidacy. We did. And many people, Barbara, actually did not show up. Showed up if I asked the leaders and had to do all kinds of jumping through hoops. But in terms of what you just said, I hope that a conversation will now develop that next time one of us runs, let's all help. Because we did have, pardon? Yeah.
No, that is what I'm saying. We know we can do it if we have the will to do it.
Yeah, well, you just had one where one of us did run, and even though when it comes to the big leaders, such as Barbara, my colleagues were fantastic, and I'm very grateful. But even, I'll tell you what was really fascinating and profound to me in my community was how the yoga community showed up. So it can't just be on the top. It can't just be the big leaders. It has to be cultivating this conversation among us that political activism we're not too precious for it, that we're not too conscious for it, that we're not too awake for it, so that next time somebody runs, the person who is listening to all this, not just the main spokespeople who did show up, but without being begged through a letter or begged through a video, there would be a more spontaneous, I'm going to wherever that district is and I'm going to help make that happen. I just experienced it. I know what I'm talking about, and that's why I'm so glad the idea of taking this conversation to the next step, that political activism matters, is so important, because we did have a chance here.
Thank you, Marianne. That's fabulous.
Thank you. And you're the only one who could have done it, so let's see what happens next.
Yeah, and on a hopeful note, you didn't hear our generous introduction of you, Marianne, at the very beginning of the call, but I'll tell you, you are fantastic, and just you've clearly laid it out there. Be empowered, go make it happen. We've all got to step up. And
well, I hope she inspires a lot of our listeners. Marianne can inspire a movement of people running for office. That is a great idea.
Well, may it be so.
We've got 6 minutes left, so we're going to just step through some things quickly. On a hopeful note, I wanted to share. Relating to this, the practicalities of really getting our candidates elected. The 2012 election, where Obama, remember, had the political machine out in the community that made it happen. And remember, Romney's Orca system didn't make anything happen. So on a hopeful note, maybe there is something here among progressives that we can get our arms around that can help not only presidential candidates but candidates for Congress. Certainly we need to step up, and I know that's your message here, Marianne. We had invited listeners to put things in the window, and we've got people just all over the world that have come in with names, comments, questions. We've got 6 minutes left, so we're just going to get to a couple here. Joseph in Maui, Hawaii says hi, and Leslie in Tucson, Arizona is coming in with a comment. Violet in St. Louis says hello. Linda Small in Irvington, Virginia says thank you so much for this call on governance. And Marianne, we are so glad you are here with us. This is somebody from Toronto, Canada. Fran comes in and says hello. Carla in British Columbia, Canada. Heidi in Utah. Let me get to one question. We've got 5 minutes left, and we've got 2 minutes for the wrap-up. So let me bring this question, Marianne, to you. It's from Loretta in River Forest, Illinois. What do I need to do as an individual that will best move this forward? Governance, as it can be, as it should be. What do I need to do as an individual to best move this forward?
My answers would be read Barbara's books on the topic and read my book, Healing of America, and start concerning yourself with what the larger issues are. Barbara talks about them. I talk about them. Start informing yourself. Start educating yourself, and then Spirit will direct you. Start reading even the newspaper. See, Michael Beckwith, I heard him once say, see the newspaper as the world's prayer list. To me, politics is like a soap opera. You first turn it on, you don't know who the characters are or what they're talking about. But if you turn it on for 3 days in a row, you're like amazed that Luke and Lucy are dating, and oh my God, he got her sister pregnant. That's the same thing with politics. After enough, go, oh my God. And that we have to educate ourselves, and things will happen, and then that person's individual guidance system will start being activated, and from that point forward, you will know.
Okay, awesome. Any just 2-word additions to that, Barbara, Anna-Mari? Because we're going to go right into the wrap-up here.
It has been a fabulous call, and I am so inspired, Marianne, and reminded, to be open and to expand my own perspective and my own worldviews. This is really what I got out of this call today. It was really fantastic. And your note just now on, seeing the newspapers, the world's prayer list is just simply wonderful. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be with you on the call.
I'd like to just add one thing that is in the favor of what you're saying that even urges us more, because there is so much breakdown in governance and in environment and all the issues. People are more concerned at realizing the general conditions are no longer holding. So therefore, because of the crisis in the social environmental situations we're facing, I think it could be the evolutionary driver that people like ourselves who have not been as active will step forward, because they can see without them we can't do it.
Okay, and with that, let's go ahead and we're going to go into the wrap-up. You'll hear from all of us again on Global Oneness Day and on coming calls. We're doing these once each month. Marianne, we're going to get to thank yous in a minute, but let me just say now, thank you. Gosh, coming right off the campaign trail where everything's fresh and you've got so much perspective to come in and share all the things that you have. I know I'm speaking for all of us. Thank you. Just unbelievable.
Well, thank you. We're a family, and we all want to feel loved by our family.
We are. Yeah. We are all one. Yes. We are a family.
If you'd like to receive all of our new podcast episodes, please click on the subscribe button. To find out more about Humanities Team transformational education programs and about how you can help support our mission, please visit us online at humanitiesteam.org, where you can also sign up for our email list so we can let you know about our free online events and other news about what we're up to each week. And again, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review. Thank you.